Welcome. Today we are going to be painting the temple, and we're going to be painting in acrylic. And my name is Jamie Naluai, and I've been teaching art for over 25 years, and I'm so excited to be here today. So before we get started, I sure wanted to show you what we have that you need. Okay, so I have here a couple pieces of just typed paper. Now, if you don't have typed paper, you have lined paper, that's okay. Just a couple pieces of those. I have a paper plate, and this is going to be my palette, so I'm going to squeeze out the paint onto this. I have a pencil, that's always important. I have here some tape. Now, I'm just showing you the two options, but there's other options as well. You just have to make sure it's a tape that is not see-through. So get yourself, this is painter's tape, and you can get this in blue, I've seen it in green, and this is just plain old masking tape, and this stuff is really good. So you need some tape, and then of course we need something to paint on. And since we're going to be using acrylic today, what you need is a piece of canvas. And canvas isn't paper, it's actually material, and so it doesn't soak up that paint and make your paper all wobbly. So I have a canvas board here. You can get these at Hobby Lobby, you can get them at Walmart, you can get them at Michael's, you can get them in packs or singly. So just get yourself one of these, or you could even try these boards. These are canvas boards, and it says right here on it, canvas panels. And so these are kind of fun to work with too. And it comes in a 5-piece, so you could try this over and over again, or maybe there's several of you in a house and you all want to do it together. This is a great option. And then I have two sets here. This I picked up at Walmart, and look, it says right there, acrylic paint. And these are acrylic paint brushes. So we have those. And then I also have this is from Michael's, and you see it's acrylic and acrylic. So it doesn't matter which store you pick these up from, as long as you make sure that they are acrylic. And get yourself some good brushes. The reason why I got a pack of brushes is because I'm going to use not only this flat tip right here to put down some paint, but I'm also going to use these really small ones. They have really tiny tips, so you can get some really good detail on your picture. Okay. Now that I have these, if you need them, grab yourselves a ruler, but we're going to let this paper and we're going to let this tape be our guide today. And then I also have a tissue box. Now, it's not because I have a cold, which is good, but I'm actually going to use this as a painting tool today. So get yourself some tissue paper, and that's going to help us put in some clouds. So I like that. And then most importantly, look at my space. I've given my, if you're doing this on a table, make sure that you have something down, either a drop cloth or a bigger piece of paper, so that you can be free to just paint and not worry about getting anything dirty. And I'm wearing some nice clothes, but in just a moment when we get over to the art, what we're going to do today, I'm going to put on an apron so that I don't get my clothes dirty. I really love working with acrylic, but acrylic isn't fun to get out of clothing. So I want you to be careful with that. Careful with your space and careful with your clothes. And so if you guys are ready, let's start painting. So this is a sample of what we're going to be painting today. I'm so excited about this. And you will be amazed at how simple this project really is. In fact, I only use a paintbrush for just a little bit of it. So I'm going to show you some really fun techniques. First, of course, I got to make sure that I am covered, because I am foremost a painter and I love to make messes. My hands are always covered in some sort of paint. And I have my trusty easel here. I've got all the equipment that I already told you about. There's one thing I forgot to mention, and that is a cup of water. And that's because we're not watercoloring, and I'm not thirsty. But when you pull out those brand new paintbrushes, they're going to be really hard at the top. And that's because they put a little bit of glue on them when they store them and package them, so that they don't lose their shape. So what you're going to want to do to make sure that you can keep these paintbrushes nice and clean and you can use them over and over again, I take care of my brushes so that I can use them over and over again. You're just gonna wanna give them a good old rinse in some water. And then I want you to dry them off really good, okay? So I just have a tissue here and I'm just gonna dry them off really good because we're not watercoloring. So they're ready to go when I'm ready to go. Okay, so I'm gonna move this out of the way and I'm gonna start. You can see, you can do it in different sizes, right? That's okay. If you have something even bigger, maybe that's what you're using. So it doesn't matter the size, but we're gonna get the scale pretty good. So I'm gonna put that right there and I'm gonna show you how I start. Well, first I have to be inspired, right? And we know what we're inspired by. We're so excited for the temple and that you guys get to go through the temple. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at the shape of the temple that I wanna draw. And if you look at it, what does that look like to you? That shape right there. Well, it's a rectangle, isn't it? Well, I could try to draw myself a nice rectangle and I could grab myself a ruler and I could measure it out, but let me show you a trick I use. And I use all the tools, boys and girls, I really do, because it just makes life so much easier when you do all the tricks. So I'm gonna take a piece of paper, an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, regular type paper, and I'm going to fold it in half, right? And I'm gonna look and I'm gonna say, hey, is that about the size? Well, that's just a little big still. I think it's too wide, maybe. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fold it one more time, just a little bit. And if you're doing a smaller temple, then you're gonna wanna maybe fold it in half again. Have one of the adults around you help you try to figure out the size, because size is important when you're doing art. And I'll tell you why. What if you wanted to draw yourself a flower? And so you draw yourself a pretty flower and then you think, oh, this flower needs a ladybug. And the ladybug is this big and your flower's this big. Is that how it works? Well, we know a ladybug's a lot smaller than a flower. So we have to put it in the natural size that it is. So, oh, look at that. I like that size. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my pencil and I'm gonna make sure that my temple is nice and straight. Make sure that this is straight over here, because do we want a temple that's like that? No, we don't want a temple like that. We wanna make sure it's nice and straight. So if you need an adult to help you with this, oh, I would say get yourself an adult. They love helping out. And I am just gonna trace it. Now, this will probably be a lot easier for you because you are doing this on a table, right? And Jamie Naluai is not doing this on a table. She has to stand here, but that's okay. I'm just gonna, look at that. I have myself a rectangle. And you know what? That's all I'm gonna use the pencil for. And the paper, I'm done now. Look how easy that was. And now I'm gonna go to my trusty paint. Painter's tape, that's what this is. This isn't paint. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna block off this area right here so that I don't paint it, the sky color, the grass color. So I'm gonna get my tape and I'm just gonna start taping it. And this is a good thing for adults to help you with too. I love using tape, but sometimes I need help, right? And it's okay to ask for help. That's the lovely part about having people around you that love you. They are so helpful. You notice how I use my scissors? Well, it's because I don't want that little taped part right there to be all, I want it to be nice and straight. So this might take a minute, but after you set it up, the painting will go really, really fast. So this is an important step and I hope that you take it, okay? And I'm gonna tape there. And it's okay if it's not absolutely perfect, because guess what? This is an idea, right, that we're painting. If I were to show you this, you know exactly what that is, right? But does the temple have like more detail to it? It sure does, doesn't it? But I just kind of wanted the idea. So it's okay if it's a little bit off in places, because what we're doing is we're creating an idea of what the temple is. The white against the blue and the green and how beautiful it is. That's what I love about it. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna fill all this space up. And I'm gonna show you why in a minute. Because I really like to go crazy with my paint. And so I like to block off everything I know that's gonna stay white. That way, I don't have to worry about it. And see how easy this tape is? Once you get those nice squares and even sides, so easy to work with. And you know what? Oh, it has a couple little holes at the bottom. I don't care, because guess what I'm gonna come later and do? I'm gonna put green in there. So no problem. So now what's it missing? What else is white on this temple? Well, the spires are white, aren't they? So I'm gonna take myself a little bit of painter's tape, and I'm going to tape that just like that, so it's a nice, and I'm gonna do the center spire. Now the center spire, I want it to be pretty tall, right? It goes right up in the middle, and then you need to make sure that you've left yourself some room, because what's gonna go right here on top of that? Right? You need the spire right here on top, nice and tall. So if you take your tape and you do this, wow, that's amazing! But then you don't have any room for that spire on top. So just come just like that. And I want you also to notice, look at this, I kind of did it off center a little bit, didn't I? So this side over here is a little bit bigger than this side, and that's called composition. That's an art term. So maybe you've heard that one before, but I like to use art terms. And so composition is how we look at the space around the art. Okay, and then I have another one, and it's right here, and it doesn't go as high up, does it? No, it doesn't go as high up. In fact, I would say half and half. So if you were to cut that in half, that's probably right where that should be. Does that make sense? And I want to get one more really nice across. So I'm going to cut one more time, and this one's going to be the same. Now, boys and girls, this might be a part where you need an adult to help you, because I want you to notice a couple things. I want you to notice that the width between the white spaces and the blue spaces was about the same, isn't it? Because we want some symmetry here. Think about a butterfly, right? On this side, it needs to match that side. So I'm trying to match it so that it's almost all the same size on both, and it's the same far away from the middle. So once you have this, I'm just going to take my finger and I'm just going to make sure that that tape is down nice and good. Boom. We are done with the tape. So we are done with our scissors, so we can put those off to the side. Now we have this lovely idea of what our temple is going to look like. And the first thing I'm going to do is add some sky. Now, you can make a sunset, so you could do reds and yellows and oranges. That would be really pretty. But today I'm going to use blue. And I have in my paint pack, you'll notice right here, I opened it up. It has all these lovely colors. Oh, when people ask me what my favorite color is, you know what I tell them? All the colors. I am such a rainbow freak. I love all the colors. So I'm going to pick out this blue here. And this blue is called ultramarine blue. And I love it. It's the true blue. It's like the blue that they sing about in the primary colors are 1, 2, 3, red, yellow, and blue. This is the blue that they're talking about. And I'm only going to put, I don't need a whole lot. You see that? It's not like I'm going, putting gravy all over my turkey for Thanksgiving. I just need just a little bit. Maybe like what you would put on your toothbrush. Because you know what you can do? You can always come back for more. And I'm also going to put a little bit of white down. And notice when you open it up, there's a little foil there. Well, this isn't the kind that you can kind of peel off. So the tip, they make these pretty cool, don't they? The tip of your tube has a little puncture thing. Boom, look at that, punctured it right there. And now I'm going to put some white. And I always screw my lid back on and put it over here so that it's ready to go the next time. Okay, now I'm gonna get myself ooh, a nice big brush. And I didn't get out my nice big brush, did I? Oh, it's over there. That's okay. I'll use this one. Get out one of your biggest brushes, okay? Because what we're gonna do is we are going to take it and we're gonna fill up all this sky space. So I'm gonna start with my blue, and look at that. I'm just gonna start painting, 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 painting. You guys with me? You ready to get this color on here? And it looks like, oh, yep, I'm probably gonna need more. And that's okay. If I didn't put enough down, I can certainly put more down. And I'm just gonna paint. Now, I want the sky to come to about here. That's a good sky level. And the reason why is, again, I don't want everything to be right in the middle. If you were to draw your line right here in the middle and right here in the middle and everything was completely centered, it's not as interesting, I don't think. So I'm gonna make my sky a little bit more than my grass. Now notice, boys and girls, I'm just doing any which way. I'm kind of doing crosses, if you think about it, X's, like X, 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 X. What am I doing? I'm trying to fill in all those spaces so that I don't see the white coming through on that canvas. And then I notice, oh, I ran out of paint. Well, guess what? You have more, and it's okay. So I'm gonna push some more. It's always better to always go for more than to have too much, because then we waste it, don't we? And then you wanna do another one and you won't have any more paint because it's all dried out. Now let's say you have some paint at home. Your mom's like, oh, use that paint. We have paint already. One, make sure it's acrylic. And I think craft paints, the ones that come in the little tubes that say craft, I mean, it's the ones that stand, they're okay, but a true acrylic actually works the best. So hopefully you got some really good paint. And what happens if your color blue is not the color of blue I have? That's okay. If you think about it, every time you go past the temple, is the color of the sky just a little bit different? Yeah, and even during the day, is it a little bit different? Of course it is. So don't worry if your blue doesn't look like my blue. I'm just trying to fill in all those white spaces. And I just dip, and I paint. Now maybe you're thinking, what do I do about the edges? I'll show you that in just a minute. But I have to warn you, your fingers might get a little dirty, but we're painting, so that's okay. Do your fingers ever get dirty when you're in the kitchen and you're cooking? Yeah, they do, don't they? How about, do your fingers ever get dirty if you're in the garden planting flowers or pulling weeds? Oh, I don't like pulling weeds, but my hands would get dirty, right? So it's okay because this washes off our hands, so not a problem. And notice I kind of am just, you see I'm painting right on top of that tape? And I don't have to try to make it all perfect. Nope, I can just paint right on top of that tape. And it's kind of even all the way around. And I've got most of those white out of there. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up my piece. So wherever it's at, if it's on your tabletop or if it's here or wherever, I'm just gonna pick it up. I'm gonna nice hold it, and look at this, boys and girls. I am going to paint my edges. This is what I love about canvas, is once I paint my edges and I get it all done, I don't even need a frame. I could give this to my grandma as a gift. In fact, when I was younger, I would paint and I would give my art to my grandma, and she loved it. My great-grandma was an artist, and I loved hearing the stories of her painting. And I always thought, oh, I'm just like her. I'm just like my great-grandma. And I love that. When I was about your age, people would ask me, what's your favorite thing to do? And what do you think I said? Art. Yes. And what happens if I run out of paint? Oh, I can certainly get some more, but I want you to make sure that you're putting enough paint down, okay? I don't want you to have a dry brush and feel like, oh, it's scratching on the surface. Make sure that you fill up that paintbrush. Look at me, I'm always dipping it in more paint. I'm going right back in. Oh, look, I didn't get enough paint on that, right? Because I ran out of paint there. Well, that's okay. I'm gonna get a little bit more. Now, I go fast because I've been doing this for a long time, but maybe this is your first time that you've ever painted with acrylic. So it's okay to go nice and slow. That's the wonderful thing about having this recorded, because if I'm going too fast for you, you don't have to worry about it. You can stop the video for a second, take a deep breath, and finish painting your sky blue. And then when you're ready to join me again, you can. That's the lovely thing about video, isn't it? Because I like to go fast. Okay, now I've got all that blue in there, and it kind of looks a little bit, maybe not even, right? I filled up all the spaces, but you know, it's kind of a little, well, that's okay, because you know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna make sure it's all nice and smooth. It's still a little wet, and what I love about wet paint is that you can blend it. So now that I'm done with this brush here, I'm going to put it right into my water, just like that, just so that it doesn't dry in the paintbrush, okay? If I needed to come back to that paintbrush, I can clean it out and I can dry it off. But I'm done with that paintbrush right now, so I'm just gonna put it away, okay? Here comes our second tool. Look at this tool, isn't this a fun tool? Oh, this tool is an amazing tool, and sometimes us mommies think we can't live without it. In fact, I know that your teacher at school is probably like, I need more Kleenex in this classroom, right? So now I'm going to take it, and I'm just going to kind of make a little bit of a, you know, I kind of folded it up a little bit like that and like that. And I have this nice kind of spot right here, almost like I was going to dab it, because that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to come into the blue, and then I'm going to come into the white. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at what I'm doing. This is going to fill all that in so nicely. And it's going to make that, and look, I'm going on the edges, and this is going to add that really fun texture to my beautiful sky. And I can go right back in. And what's happening to the white? Is it blending with the blue? It's blending with the blue. And is that okay? Yes, that's perfectly okay. And notice I'm just going right over where I taped everything off. I'm going right over my whole blue sky, and I just keep dipping it in. And I just keep working it. Notice I'm just dabbing it, right? I'm just dabbing it, and I'm letting all that blue and all that white blend together. I'm getting some of the edges. See, look, my edges have it too. Oh, right over here, I need a little bit more. Kind of just blends it out, and it just makes it so that it's a nice, smooth sky. Now, what happens if I want to put a white cloud in there? Well, I've still got some white, don't I, right here? And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of move my tissue around. Oh, look, I'm dirty already. Yay, that means I'm doing art. I hope you're dirty too. Okay, I'm going to now just kind of dip a nice clean into that white. And maybe I'm going to come over here. Oh, I'm going to do a cloud. And clouds are kind of fluffy, aren't they? And different, maybe in a circular motion, right? And maybe, oh, don't blend it in too much. You don't want to do that, because then you lose your cloud. Okay, so just a little bit, and then you're done. You see how it's still white over here? And maybe I want to put one up here. Oh, yes, I do. Look at how easy that is. I just did a cloud with a Kleenex on blue. Isn't that so fun? These are the tricks and tips that I love, because it makes my art seem so much easier and fun. I don't have to use a paintbrush. Okay, voila, I am happy with that sky. So I am going to be done with this tissue. Okay, now before we pull this tape off, we're going to do the grass. So let's take a look at that one for just a minute. The thing I love about acrylics is that I can do layer after layer after layer after layer. So if I wanted to, I could let this dry for a whole day after I'm done. And if I wanted to, I could come back and I could put some birds in the sky, right? I could put maybe a tree branch up all the way if I wanted to. So these are fun things that you can do as you start layering paint. You can't really, well, you can kind of do it with watercolor. It's a little trickier. That's why I love acrylic. Okay, let's move on to the grass. Okay, now the lovely thing about the grass and the trees is we're looking at the temple from far away. Let's say we're clear over here and we're just driving by. We're in the parking lot maybe. We're not right up to the temple. And so all this green right here is not, we won't see individual flowers, but we'll know that they're there, okay? So we're looking at from far away. So we aren't gonna see a lot of detail, but we will know that it's the trees and the grass, and you know how beautiful they keep the temple grounds. It's just so lovely. Okay, I have 2 greens here. And most of the sets come with 2 greens. And I love that because when I'm adding color to the grass isn't all just one color, is it? Trees aren't just all one color, is it? No, they're different colors. And of course, I'm painting this for the springtime because that's when we get to go to the temple. I remember the very first temple that I got to go into. And that was the Jordan River Temple. It's in Utah. And I remember it was up on a hill, and I remember that the grass was green all around. And I remember standing in line with my mom and dad, and I remember the temple being so tall. And we all stood in line, and we were very patient as we were going around. And I remember they put booties on my feet, and I remember walking through with my parents and my mom holding my hand. And so I looked the other day and I thought, I wonder how old I was. I must have been like 7 or 8 because I remember so much. And when I looked, I was 3 years old. It was 1 month before I turned 4. I remember all of that as a 3-year-old. I can't even believe that. I was like, are you sure? And I checked again, and that is when the open house was. The summer I turned 4. So you probably have a 3-year-old in your house. Maybe you have a 2-year-old. Maybe you have a 5-year-old. Maybe you're 5 and you're trying this out. I think visiting the temple is just, you're gonna remember it. It's gonna be special. I'm back to my flat brush. Remember it had the blue on it? I'm gonna rinse it off really good. And now I'm gonna go into these 2 colors and watch what I do. Okay, now we're on to the green, and I have got 2 greens here, and I'm gonna do the same thing I did. Oh, that's a bright green. It's kind of like a blue green, isn't it? It says dark green, it's blue green. And notice, I'm getting the sides. I'm gonna come down. And it's okay if it goes over the blue, because we're gonna go over the blue in just a minute anyway. And I'm gonna do this dark green first. And again, just doing little crosses and X's. How do I do that? Just getting the paint on there. This is when our hands are gonna become a little dirty, because guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna hold it up and maybe I'm gonna get some blue here. I don't know, but that's okay. And I'm just gonna get my edges. How are you guys feeling about this? Are you enjoying it? I think art is a great stress reliever. Calms me down when I can just turn something into something else. Okay, got a bunch of green on there, right? And now, well, I'm gonna, look at this. Is this a bad thing? No, that's not a bad thing. It's nice, and sometimes when you have to do something, flip it upside down and it makes it easier. Okay, I'm done with this again, so I'm gonna put it right back into my, and I'm gonna get my tool again. And now I've got two kinds of green here. And notice I'm just kind of mixing them right on there. And if you want to hold it, if it's moving around for you. Now remember, this is our first layer of the grass. We're going to probably come in here in a little bit and do some more, so don't worry about it. I'm just getting the look of foliage. Foliage, is that how you say that word? Foliage. Just getting some grass texture, greenery texture, and I'm going all the way around. And so it's okay. And you know what I'm gonna do? I feel like I need a little bit of yellow in here. Because when spring hits, it's light green, isn't it? Maybe I don't have light green, so I can make light green. I can throw a little bit of yellow in there. I can throw a little bit of white in there too. You can make and mix all these colors. And I love that. And you see I'm mixing it right on my palette. Oh, I'm getting nice and dirty. Oh, look at that. It's kind of like a spring kind of green, isn't it? And maybe I come up a little bit like that, right into the sky. Is that okay? Do trees grow up into the sky? They do. Maybe a little bit over there. And maybe a little bit here. And notice, boys and girls, I'm just touching it ever so lightly. I'm not doing a whole lot. Okay, done. I am done with the first layer of grass, and I'm done with my sky, and I'm done with my tissue. So now's the time where you can pause the video, and you're going to have to wait for it to dry. Now, if you're not patient, because I'm not patient sometimes, and you really want to get going and you want to finish this project, you can do one thing. You can go and find yourself a blow dryer, and you can blow dry it until it's dry. And I know it's dry so that when I touch it, it's not cold to the touch, and of course no paint comes off. Okay, so be very careful if you're touching this. You don't want to touch it with the green and then, oh, the green is still wet, I wonder if the blue is still wet, and then what do you get in the sky? Green. Okay, so I know mine is still wet, so I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to go and hit it with a blow dryer. You can hit it with a blow dryer, or you can wait for a little bit and then we'll come back and finish it up. Okay, so I've dried this off and I think it's pretty good. I might have some spots down here that are a little bit wet still, but I'm not going to touch those, but I'm just going to make sure, yeah, it's pretty dry. And yes, my fingers are dirty, but I kind of just rinsed them off and dried them off really good, so they're not wet. They may be dirty, but they're not wet. So when I pull off this tape, it's not going to make a mess. So make sure that your fingers aren't dirty and that you're pulling the tape off nice and clean. And look what happens when you just pull it off. Wow, look at that. I'm going to come in here. Look at that. Isn't that fun? So fun. Now what I did after I dried this, I did one more thing that's really important, and that is I changed my water and I really cleaned out my brush, because the next thing I'm going to paint is white. And if I have a brush that has green or blue on it, what color is my temple going to be? Green or blue, right? So I'm going to make sure it's a nice clean brush, and I'm going to make sure that I have a nice spot here on my palette paper that I can just put some white paint, okay? And I want you to notice when I was drawing that around, I have some pencil marks there. And if you wanted to, if they're bothering you, you can certainly come in and erase those. that's fine. Just make sure that you're just erasing right there instead of everywhere else. But the paint should cover it pretty good. Anyway, there we go. So now's the part where I want you to take some time, okay? This doesn't have to be rushed. And it's because now I really do have to follow a line. So I'm just putting down white paint, but I'm going to make sure that I stay inside that white area. Okay, so I'm going to take my time and I'm going to let this flat brush do a lot of the work for me. Okay, so I'm going to load up my paint with white paint, but I'm going to make sure that it has a nice flat edge still. And I'm just going to start painting it in. And I'm just going to bring it down. And when I'm in the middle, I can just paint away, right? But when I come up in here, when I'm doing this temple spire, I want to go nice and slow. Take your time. Now remember, how long have I been painting now? For a very long time, right? So I am going to go faster than you. I really am. That's just the way it is. It's like when you learn to tie your shoe. Your mom's been tying her shoe for a very long time, so she could probably whip up that knot just like that. And it takes you maybe 5 minutes, and that's okay because you're just learning. So you're just going to take your time. Take a nice deep breath. You don't have to rush this. You're just filling in with white paint, okay? This will be the time, if you need to pause the video so that you don't feel like, oh, she's so ahead of me. How am I gonna finish with her? Don't worry about that. Just take your time. And pause it, paint this all in. And I'm not gonna go all the way down to the bottom because I'm gonna fill this in with greenery. I want you to notice. So I've got some greenery here that covers it. So we don't need to worry about that part, okay? Okay, boys and girls. Now comes probably one of the hardest parts of this, but I know you can do this. I know you can do this. I've been teaching for a very long time, so you guys can do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do just a little, I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to do a little section right there. See how I just did that? I'm just going to let the brush put a little top right on there. And I'm going to let the brush do a little top right on there. It's like a little cap. Boom. And I'm going to let the flat brush do that. If you have a round brush, it's going to be a little trickier to do, but you can try. That's fine. And look, I'm going to put a little cap on that one too. See how I made those caps? 3 little caps. Now, this is where my paint is still wet. And this is important that your paint is still wet because we're going to put in some of these shadows and highlights of the temple. Now, how many of you have ever built a snowman before, right? I'm hoping we get some snow this year. Anyway, when I build a snowman and I paint a snowman, the shadow color that I put for white is never black. I always use blue because blue is from the sky, right? And so you have the sky and it reflects off the beautiful white of the temple. And so the shadows of the temple are going to be a little bit blue. And then if I want something shiny, I can use a little bit of yellow. Okay? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, hey, I know that it's a little bit shiny, and I'm going to do a little bit of shiny right down there. So I'm going to make sure. Okay, is it still wet from my white paint? It's still wet from my white paint. Oh boy, look at that. Can you see that? How much paint did I put on there? Did I put toothpaste worth? No, I put just teeny little bit, like a doll. Not even, it's like a ballerina on her tippy toes. And then I'm going to come straight down. Look at that. I'm going to come straight down. Can you come straight down? And you see how I'm kind of going over it and over it and over again? It's kind of shiny, isn't it? It blends with that white. I want you to try that. Now I'm going to show you a trick that I learned a long time ago. I'm going to use my shoulder. I'm not going to use my elbow, and I'm not going to use my wrist, and I'm definitely not going to use my fingers. I'm going to use my whole arm to get that nice line, because this is the best muscle and the biggest one, so that you get a really nice good line. So I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to teeny little bit like a ballerina on her toes, teeny bit of yellow, and I'm going to come right down here on this one too, straight down. Notice, I want you to pretend you have a cast on. Right like that. There we go. And I'm going to put a little bit on this one too. And I'm not going to go all the way down. And notice I didn't pick any more up. I'm just kind of using what's ever on that brush. Okay. Now, the temple has this beautiful stained glass right here, if you've ever seen it. And when you go to the temple, you'll see it. They have these stairs that you go up, and you can see the beautiful. And so I am going to dip right into that blue, and it comes right down the middle. Right down the middle. Notice I'm using my flat brush. This is going to help me get that. And I'm going to use my big shoulder muscle. And I'm going to go straight down. Look at that. Did you know you could do this? And that's fun. And I have a little bit of blue on mine, so I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadow right here. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow right here. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow right there. What? Look at that. And maybe a little bit right here. And maybe a little bit right here. Notice I'm doing all long strokes, and the white paint is blending. So that's what it's doing. Look at that. We are done with our temple. Wait, are we done with our temple? What's missing? I'll put my brush away because I'm not going to use that one anymore. I'm going to use this yellow ochre. It's kind of a yellowy brown color. And I think it adds a little bit of, it's going to kind of be like a bronze color. And so you get a dark yellow and a light yellow. And then I'm going to get, so I made a mess of that. Oh, look at that. Did I make a mess? Yeah, it's fine, right? We can always clean it up. I'm going to get myself my round brush. Now a round brush has a tippy top to it, okay? It doesn't flat, it's round, and it has a little edge. And this is when I really want you to be like a ballerina on their toes, okay? I'm going to come in and I'm going to get that, and this can be the hardest part, okay? And it's okay. So if you want to, you can flip it around, because sometimes it's easier for me to come down, and I can come down and I can just, and notice I'm just doing quick little strokes, right? Just little ones. Maybe you might need some help with this. That's okay. Could you ask help? Yeah, you can. See how it's right in the middle? And I'm just trying my best to get a nice straight. And if you need help with that, you ask for help, okay? And maybe you need somebody to put just a pencil mark there so you can follow the pencil mark. Ask for help with that. I know where I want to put mine, but if you want to put like a little mark of a pen or something like that so you know where to follow, that's perfectly fine. See how I'm just making like little strokes here? Now again, how long have I practiced this? A long time, boys and girls. So don't worry if it's not working. It's okay. You just try, right? Maybe you can get some help. Now let's say you've gotten a whole big thing there and it looks, and you're like, oh, I messed it up. Now it's all over with. I got to almost finished and I messed it up. You didn't mess it up. You can always go back in when it's dry and you can put in some blue sky and then go over it again. It's just like layers, right? So don't worry about it. If you feel like your spiders are really thick because it's really hard to do, then you can always go in and paint blue sky and then do it again. So maybe I want these a little taller. And see, it's just kind of an idea, right? Remember I was on my tippy toe. How much of that paintbrush did I use? Did I use all of it? No, I just used this tippy. Now I'm going into my light yellow. And I'm just gonna go, if I wanted to, I can go into my white yellow. Just do a little bit of yellow at the top so it really shines. There you go. Guess what? It's done. Now, one last thing. You can add more. This is going to take me all of just a few minutes, and then we're 100% done. And that is, I'm going to get some more green. One last time. I'm going to get me a tissue, and this is still wet, and that's okay because it'll blend, right? And I'm going to dip it into those greens. And you can go, oh, look, it's picking up the white. Is that okay? It's just fine. Notice I'm just coming around. I'm doing all the bottom, like it's popping up right out of the bushes, right? That's a lovely part about this temple, is it feels like it just pops up out of nowhere, doesn't it? You're coming around the beltway and here it is. I love that part about it. Oh, I dipped it into the yellow. Is that bad? No, that's not bad. Look at that. Here and put a little bit more in. You can kind of see there's a line there. That's the blue behind the green, and my green wasn't as thick. I can come in and I can, oh, look at that. There's a yellow tree there. If I want to, I can get the sides, make sure I get the sides. Oh, side needs a little bit. Look at that, boys and girls. There you go. And I'm going to be done right like that. I hope you enjoyed our temple picture today. The last thing I want you to remember is once it's all dry, I want you to put your name on it, because that means you did it. You did this painting, and I hope that you can enjoy it. And I'm really excited for you to go through the temple, and I hope that you love it just as much as I do. Bye.